Hello, I'm JJ Anisiobi and welcome to the Daily Expresso. On this show, we always dive into the biggest stories of the day and attempt to make sense of what's really going on. It was a wild weekend in Westminster, and to assess the fallout, we have Belinda de Lucy back on the show. Belinda, how you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Looking great as always, looking good.
Oh, thank you so much. You like my wings?
I'm loving the wings. Can I say that to a woman? Loving her wings?
Yes, as long as they're not bingo. Bingo wings. We can leave that at the door.
Right. Last week, Keir Starmer promised a second phase of his government, Labour 2.0, if you will. The plan was for just a couple of minor tweaks to ensure that focus was on delivery. Problem is, a day is a long time in politics, and after Angela Rayner resigned on Friday for underpaying stamp duty on a property purchase, Labour swiftly moved from phase 2 to phase 3 and have undergone a major reshuffle. Former Foreign Sec David Lammy has replaced Angela Rayner as Deputy Prime Minister. Lammy has also become Justice Secretary, taking over from Shabana Mahmood, who herself has become Home Secretary, taking over from Yvette Cooper, who is now Foreign Secretary. A little bit confusing there. Belinda, what do you make of this massive mess up?
Well, phase 2 didn't last very long. What was that, 3 days? I think we're just going to see an infinity of phases with Keir's government and an infinity of reshuffling. He's obviously been spooked by reform. I think he saw quite clearly that people like Yvette Cooper were not handling the job very well. I mean, all the protests over the summer, this sort of one in, one out, although I'd call it 100 in, 1 out type deal going with France has not quelled the British anger. It has not had any positive effect. And quite frankly, if Yvette was doing a good job, she would have kept it. And if David Lammy was doing a great job as Foreign Secretary, he would have kept him in as well. So this is a sort of lack of confidence, a panic. But I think it's what Keir is trying to do to rebalance the decks in his favour and have a bit more control over the situation. Angela Rayner going isn't just a loss to Keir because she was the yin to his very dull robotic yang, the most charismatic woman on that side of Parliament, and now she's at the back benches. But it's even more worrying for the Labour Party itself because Angela Rayner was that sort of peacemaker between, let's say, the hard left and the more Blairite side of the Labour Party. And to be quite frank, we had so much chaos with the Tory party and Labour promised this integrity, grown-ups back in the room. It's just the same chaos. I don't know how David Lammy is going to do in Justice Secretary because there's a big feeling of two-tier justice at the moment, massive issues with prisons, early release schemes, letting violent offenders out on the streets too early, and his track record, I don't think there's necessarily trust with David Lammy on how he's going to deal with that. Shabana, well, what can I say? She's obviously famous at the moment for having signed that deportation letter to stop the criminals being deported from England in 2020. And I think that worried a few people. But I do think she's seen as a bit tougher than Yvette Cooper.
Yeah.
A bit more sort of blue-collar Labour. But we shall see because they've tied their own hands. With the ECHR over the weekend confirming they were not going to leave the ECHR. They're not going to reset case law to stop all the paedophiles and rapists having a right to stay here. They're not going to do any of that. So anything she does isn't going to reduce the numbers of people who come here by boat at all. She's just going to move them around a bit.
Well, she has said today that she will do everything in her power to stop the votes.
And that's exactly in her power. What power does she have, JJ? Nothing. She has no levers because they are absolutely committed to these outdated, dangerous international treaties that are making nation states borderless, that are putting citizens at risk from foreign criminals and terrorists and men who run away from women and children to break into other countries. It's a massive beacon saying, come here, our door is open, we will give you everything. Doesn't matter how heinous you are, very unlikely you'll be deported. And Labour will not have the spine to ever leave the ECHR or the Refugee Convention of 1951, even amend it. So they have nowhere to go. I don't know what she's planning.
What about Yvette Cooper, Foreign Secretary? Is that an easier job for her than Home Secretary?
I think it's been really hard for Keir to find a suitable foreign secretary that hasn't slagged off Donald Trump. Because
Yeah.
when I was looking at,
Yeah.
obviously David Lammy has compared him to neo-Nazi and KKK. Yvette Cooper said he was an aggressive misogynist in the past. This is coming from a party who campaigned for men to access women-only spaces, so I don't know how she has authority to talk about misogyny. I think she is a bit of a soft wet wipe. She's obviously the refugee welcome placard. That's the photo everyone remembers of Yvette. The problem with the foreign secretaries and the Foreign Office at the moment, they're supposed to put British interests first on a global stage. They're constantly putting foreign interests first on a British stage. They're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do. So listen, we'll wait and see, but I bet there'll be a reshuffle within, the next 12 months and phase 27,000.
How badly has the Angela Rayner scandal hit Labour? Do you think people are that bothered about it? Do you think people maybe think some people think she was treated unfairly?
I don't think it will have an impact on voting because I think, Labour, I think, is about 20%. Is it in the teens yet? I don't think it will damage the polling. But what I do think is it will damage the party because, of course, you've got Jeremy Corbyn's new party. Your party, I think they've called it, or Jezbollah, as we all like to call it. And that is going to start attracting those sort of hard lefties away from Labour to that party. And Angela Rayner, as I said, she was that kind of link between the two. And I think Keir was gutted to have lost her, but she had to go. You can't tax the country to death and then try and swizz your way out of paying what you owe. But it does reflect the nature of the Labour Party at the moment. It's incredibly hypocritical. I don't know what Keir's going to do actually for deputy. Who do you think's going to make it?
I don't think there's anyone I want to be deputy. I think he just sack the position off and say we're not going to have a deputy anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Emily Thornberry or Lady Farquhar or whatever she's called.
Yeah, no, she's terrible. Keir's third phase. Some people are saying that he has gone too much towards reform and he's copying Nigel Farage and he's trying to attract that audience and he's putting some people who are classed as being on the right side rather than the left side of Labour. You think that's fair?
I'll wait and see what happens, especially with the new Home Secretary. I think Keir he's not necessarily hard left like the sort of Corbynites in his party. And I think he realises if he doesn't do something soon, there could be more civil unrest on the streets and it will all be blamed on him. That could mean another election and he doesn't want that. So I think he's going to say all the right things. He's going to say, we're going to stop the boats again and we're going to move them all to military bases and all this sort of stuff. But nothing will change unless he makes sure those who come here get detained and deported within a few weeks. That's not going to happen. So I don't think he can move to the right. And economically, JJ, think about it. The hard left in the Labour Party will always rebel whenever Keir tries to make cuts to the welfare bill. There will always be a massive fight. And he can't increase taxes even more, like major taxes, because that was a big promise in his manifesto. It's stalemate in that party. So I don't think Keir's going to go left or right, but he'll definitely spin a yarn to try and attract your reform voters over.
Shabana Mahmood said today that they're going to punish countries and they're going to cut people's visas from certain countries if they refuse to take back their own citizens. That's what we want to hear, isn't it?
Great. Labour also said they were going to smash the gangs, and I think it's higher now than it was last year. As I said, unless they release this country from the chains of these dangerous treaties, they can't do any of that. They may send one person back, over to France and get the BBC to film it. It'll be a woman and a little baby, and they'll frame it all like this. This isn't going to happen because the core levers aren't being used. So I don't trust what they're going to say. I don't trust they'll deliver on what they're going to say. They're just panicking over Reform's very successful conference.
Okay. Right. Now, I know this is a little bit London-centric, so please don't come for me in the comments, or do. I don't care. I'll take you on anyway. Tube strikes. The capital's transport network has ground to an almost complete halt as nearly all tube services have shut after the RMT went on strike again, requesting an improvement to pay and working conditions. So to get in today, if I'm honest, it didn't affect me. My train lines are working perfectly. Overground, Elizabeth line, I could even walk in if I wanted to. Belinda, you have struggled. I'm so happy you made it in. Thanks for the effort.
I've just completed the gauntlet of left-wing despair on the tube. Not on the tube. I was on the buses. I was on a boat. I was running. Yes, it took me a couple of hours to get in. I just don't know why the hard left in this country hate people working so much. Why they just want to make sure everyone is in equal misery together. They are harming and destroying the economy. We are losing hundreds of millions of pounds this week because these fat cats, these men and women, I'm sorry, that are on salaries that people could only dream of, double the average salary, up to 72,000 a year. They get massive travel perks already, massive big fat pensions already. And now they want to, get paid more to work even less. They're already on 35 hours a week. I think it is so destructive to the morale of this country. People just trying to get to their job, do their bit, come home, feed their children. And again, these strikers are attacking the British people. And I think, to be quite honest, they should be banned. I do think essential services...
That doesn't sound very libertarian.
No, I think they've gotten out of control.
The right to protest.
No, they can do all that. What I mean is essential services.
They shouldn't be allowed
striking
to protest.
so much so often when they're already on double the average salary with loads of perks. I don't think that should be allowed. Of course, striking should, but not in this capacity.
Well, this is it. The RMT are asking for a 4-day week with a maximum of 32 hours, as well as a 75% discount on all their rail travel.
All they have to do is press buttons on a train. My God. And it was so sad on the buses today because I was jam-packed. It was all tourists who'd, probably saved up to come over and visit our lovely country, spend money in our lovely country. And they were cramped and sweating. It was like a sardine sauna in those buses. And I really wanted to shout out to them, I'm so sorry on behalf of the English people about the socialists who are trying to destroy us. But I didn't. I kept quiet.
So you're right. The average tube driver, 68,000 a year, apparently, the average one. That can be much higher when you consider overtime. So is it fair for them to ask for more cash? You're saying they press buttons, but they have to drive a train. They have to make sure that the doors open and shut.
Okay, you're not making it sound any better,
stick to the schedule. They've got to be on time.
I'm going all for automated trains at this point. I've had enough of them because this is holding London and in a grip of utter misery and the pain. I mean, how on earth are doctors and nurses going to get to work? People in hospice or carers going to try and get to their address destination to help people. This is critical and damaging. And the worst of it is Labour spent how many billions? 11 billions on giving the train drivers a rise last year in their first month of government. With no strings attached, no requirement for improvement. They gave this huge pay rise to the train drivers. These strikes do not work. They just keep asking for more and you never see an improvement.
Well, Eddie Dempsey is the guy in charge of the RMT. He took over from Mick Lynch, the famous Mick Lynch. What do you have to say to Eddie Dempsey? You got a message for him?
Stop attacking the people. Stop going for us. We're just trying to earn a crust and maybe take a family away for 2 weeks to, I don't know, Benidorm. Just trying to... They think they're uniquely victims of this cost of living crisis. They think it's all about them. Everyone is suffering with salary, cost of living problems. Absolutely everyone. It's not. We're supposed to be a family, a team, this country, working together. Well, they've definitely chosen a side and it is against, I believe, the success of this country.
Okay. This weekend, we had the Reform Party conference at the NEC in Birmingham, and it was a pretty blockbuster occasion. There were marquee speeches, pyrotechnics, big-name defections, and a lot of bullish talk of future success. But most importantly, it was the Daily Express pub quiz. It was an absolute party. I didn't attend, but a few of the journalists did, and they said it was cracking. You were at the conference.
Yes.
What was it like on the ground? Before I jump in and say how it looked to me as an outsider, How was it on the ground for someone who was there?
Well, on the fun side, it was like getting injected with a good dose of Rule Britannia and Land of Hope and Glory. It felt that kind of demonstrably positive and just meeting everyone on the ground. It wasn't like they were... Tory and Labour conferences, they're kind of there. It's duty bound to see what policies. Different. This is a movement. It did feel like a people's army. You had grands and nans and uncles and kids, and they were so many flag waving, and there was the hope that this is it. We have a chance to save this country. And thank God for reform. And this is why I think that the Liberals should be kneeling in thanks to Nigel Farage for offering this space for all these sort of angry Brits, because you don't want to see this country without reform, So there's a lot of hope. That's the fun side. On the serious side, incredibly professional. brilliant, experienced, intelligent speakers with new policies, ideas that really struck home, like banning the Muslim Brotherhood. And I don't know why Westminster hasn't done that already with its links to radical Islamism. It's banned in a lot of Muslim countries because of these horrific links, and Westminster refuses to ban it. Reform came out at the weekend saying it was going to do that. And I think that was because that's an area that Westminster's too shy to ever address, but Reform isn't. And on migration, the economy, lowering taxes, making it easier for working people to earn a living. It was wonderful, common sense, breath of fresh air, great speakers. Nadine Dorries obviously came on.
Nadine Dorries, I was going to ask you about her. What are you thinking? There was some criticism I saw leveled at that defection, that maybe she's too Tory, she's too Boris. She does seem to love Boris Johnson. That woman.
I know, that is definitely a love-in.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised at that, because I see Boris as absolutely one of the most responsible for the mass immigration increases into the country, the net zero lunacy. You know, Boris was also the Prime Minister who revoked Theresa May's requirement for businesses to offer jobs to the British first. Boris scrapped that. There was a lot, when you look into the detail of what Boris actually did in government, he was the mastermind behind the unmaking of England as we are witnessing it now. Well, probably Tony Blair was the mastermind in 97, but you know, Boris still helped.
Not Tony Blair. Do not go for Tony Blair in my presence. You can attack Boris.
Oh, hang on a minute. Tony Blair has got a lot to answer for. But the thing with Nadine, Reform is going to attract a lot of former Tory members and Tory politicians, just naturally, as it will with Labour, because both sides are fed up with Westminster. She's not got a position in the centre of power. She is just a member. She has just defected and changed her membership. You know, I definitely have concerns because I don't want Boris anywhere near Reform, but I don't think it's going to go that way. I think anyone is welcome as a member. And, you know, I wish Nadine well, but yeah, absolutely no Boris on my watch, not even my dead body.
Now, look, you say it was fun and it was nice and unity and party. I've got to say, watching the singing, especially Andrew Jenkins coming out singing, I can't get no sleep, or her version of Insomnia, I was having secondhand embarrassment watching that. How was it in the hall though? Was everyone like, oh, this is amazing. All hail. We love it. Get this song on top of the pops. Because I watched it, I just thought, this is so cringe. What are you doing?
I wasn't in the hall for that song. I missed it. However,
answer.
I would say conference can be quite laborious on the ears when it is speech after speech after speech. Even the most riveting, passionate speech, if it's sort of, 10 hours long, you can have. It was like a little light relief. And the Brits are famous for being eccentric. And I love eccentric Brits. And God, compared to Ed Davey and his Wally moments and, Boris going on the zip wire and with his helmet and, it was nothing. So I think it is nice to lighten the mood. And some people like it, some people won't. But not everything has to be your cup of tea. Mm-hmm. And good for Andrea. I know she is a very serious politician and has gone through a lot to get where she has. So hats off to her.
You had a surprise guest, Lucy Connolly, announced as the UK's favourite political prisoner. That struck me as an odd way to introduce her, if I'm honest. I probably wouldn't have advised Reform to introduce her as that. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think the Reform focus on the errors in justice in regarding Lucy Connolly were absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. They did it in a very tasteful way. There was no championing or celebrating of anything she said. It was very clearly stated on the stage, how nasty the tweet was. But what was incredible about that conversation between Alison Liam and Lucy was how Lucy exposed the hellery she was put through. And how the police misinterpreted or twisted what she said about immigration, how a photo that her husband sent to her in prison of her daughter representing Great Britain at a golfing tournament, just holding the flag, was censored by the prison ward, I think, for, I don't know, maybe they saw it as far right because she was representing her country. Just crazy little things. I don't think any harm comes out of the general population understanding how serious the the errors were in the length of her sentencing, that she was denied bail, that she was denied even to see her only child, when murderers are like much more violent criminals get that access and freedom when they're in prison. Why she wasn't. She was absolutely picked out as I believe her sentencing was political. And I do think it was good of Reform to give that platform, but it certainly wasn't celebrating any of the nastiness. It was more focusing on the two-tier justice, and I'm glad it happened.
I would push back on the two-tier justice. Only to say that she did plead guilty. Maybe she was given the wrong legal advice, if that's what people want to say, but she pled guilty. So unfortunately, the cogs in our legal system works exactly as they would do for anyone else who pleads guilty.
Well, she would probably say that she was definitely coerced into that with having only 24 hours between when she was charged and then had her first appearance in court. And when you compare that to the Labour councillor Ricky Jones, that he got a year, he got bailed straight away, all that legal advice time he got, she didn't. And actually, it's good that we're on top of the justice system, because it could happen to you or I in the media, JJ.
Well, it could, and I would plead not guilty, and I'd be judged by a jury. That's fine by me. Okay, guess who's back? Back again. Prince Harry. The Fresh Prince of Montecito has landed this morning in Blighty. He's due to attend a charity event, but of course, many people are speculating whether or not Harry will stop by his dear old dad and have a meeting with King Charles. If he does reconcile with Papa, it'll be the first time in nearly 20 months that they've actually seen each other. This, Belinda, we're both parents. You have a few more kids than I do. How sad is it that it's been 20 months, he's now in the same country as his dad, and it still seems to me unlikely that they're going to even get in the same room?
I think of course it's sad. I think as a parent, if I was estranged from my child, I would feel deep pain over that. But I do think if King Charles was to arrange a meeting with Harry, he'd need to frisk that boy for a while. He would need to make him sign a watertight NDA agreement. They would have to, because that is the crux of it. The sad thing is that Harry has made a career now and a platform and money out of using private discussions, experiences, moments with the royal family, and if you like, selling them for either books or Netflix or interviews, and that is a deep, deep betrayal. And Harry hasn't said anything about him wanting to apologise, more, that he's ready to forgive. And I'm like, oh, hark at you, my gosh. Of course, I think King Charles, it is right to forgive your child, but there has to be remorse and acknowledgement. And for any future relationship to blossom, Harry really has to make sure he's trusted again. And I'm not sure how he's going to do that.
He went straight to see the resting place of his dear grandma, Queen Elizabeth, who for me is still just the Queen, but I have to say the late Queen. He went straight there, placed a wreath down, very respectful. He clearly misses home, clearly misses family, but yet he was 8 miles away from Prince William, and that is a relationship I don't think is ever going to be made good.
No, and in a way, I'm happy with that. I don't think it is good for the survival of the monarchy for William to allow Harry back into the fold again once he is king.
Really?
I do think that there is a risk there. Because next time they have an argument, say they're all friends again in 5 years' time, next time they have a fallout, is Harry going to go to the press again? I mean, it's a really big deal, I think. And the monarchy is incredibly precious. It's bigger than any king. My dad's a twin. He didn't speak to his twin for the last 30 years of his twin's life. I mean, they had a really toxic relationship. And I think it is easier to step away from a sibling than it is a child. So as much as I think William's better off without Harry in his life at the moment, I think King Charles may think differently. Remember, Harry wasn't very nice about William. I think Meghan made some dubious comments about Kate and exposed, sides somewhat deeply private, and they have no right of reply. And Harry and Meghan know that the monarchy can't respond to any of their claims. I think it's quite sad. Stay in America. With much love and respect. Have your privacy over there.
I think you're being naive, Belinda.
Yeah.
I think the royal family, when they want to leak out bits and bobs through different facets, I think they are very, very good at doing that. I think that, yeah.
Are you batting for Harry?
I'm batting for family. That's what I'm batting for.
Well, I hope Harry bats for his family soon. It'll be a first in a long time.
Do you think he'll ever move back to the UK permanently?
I think he'll miss it, but to move back permanently, I'm not sure. I mean, he loved spending time in Africa and travelling, and America seems to be his home now. And I genuinely wish him and Meghan well. I think it's sad his children don't see King Charles. I never like that for grandparents, no matter what's gone on with your child. I can't see him moving back. No, not for now.
Well, the caffeine has worn off, but that is all we have time for. Join me again tomorrow here on the Daily Expresso. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.